Hello and welcome back to another episode of Diablo to D&D. My name is David, and today we're going to be going over the changelog for November 24th. So this is pretty exciting for me because this is the last changelog before declaring the kind of alpha version of this done, and I can move on to the Diablo 3, Diablo 4, Diablo Immortal, and maybe Diablo 1. Being brought in and made a part of this. I have so much stuff planned. But I do have one more week before the 8th, before December 8th, when I shunt all of this stuff off into a new folder and start, not fresh, but start putting a new coat of paint on all of this. So next week is going to be a fix for the Amazon. The bow Amazon subclass is getting split into two. So yeah, I'll have to log the changes in there, but beyond that, it's pretty much just going to be done. Well, there is a ton of stuff to go over, so let's just jump right in. Once again, I have an entire page worth of changes to make, or changes that I've made. So let's just start at the beginning. For the Amazon, Lightning Javelin no longer allows you to choose which creatures make the saving throw. For the Barbarian, Battlefield Orders now replaces only one of the attacks from the attack action. Battlefield Orders now clarifies the attack action must be on your turn. Warcry's damage is now 1d8 instead of 3d8 and now stuns on a fail. Martial Instructor's weapon bonus now becomes +2 at 14th level. Martial Instructor now allows a weapons bonus to override the ability if the bonus is higher. Find Potion now clarifies when the check is made. And Child of the Ancients now triggers when you become the target of an attack, not just when an attack hits you. So those first couple of ones are based on feedback from the previous video that I made when I introduced the revamped Singer Barbarian. Somebody dropped a comment and gave some feedback. I was like, you know what, you're right. You know, he makes a couple of changes, and here they are. In Diablo 2, Warcry actually does stun. It's a very short range. It doesn't deal a ton of damage. You can pump it up, but the whole point of it is that it stuns. So now I dropped it from 3d8, from an actual damaging ability, to an area of effect stun. I don't know if that's balanced or not, but it's certainly something. It's a 14th level ability, so I mean, the monk has the ability to stun, or potentially stun, quite a few times, and for a lot longer for the leveling journey. But this one's also an area of effect. Meh. It's also resourceless, so meh. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, let's see. For the Amazon, Impale can now be used only once per short or long rest. I believe it was twice per short or long rest, or twice per long rest. I actually can't remember. It had some number of times per short or long rest, and I can't remember what it was. But I decided automatically hitting is very powerful, even if you have a chance to break your weapon. In fact, the Rogue, I believe, has an ability that says if you miss, you automatically hit instead. And that is like a 20th level, 18th level, 20th level ability. And yeah, that's once per long rest. So Impale, once per short or long rest. Whether or not that's balanced, I mean, if you deal like 10 damage, that's a 10% chance of your weapon just breaking. And if you have a +1 weapon or something like that, maybe not want to use that. Anyway, for the Assassin, weapon block at 7th level and the subclass features at 6th level have been switched. I was looking at this for quite some time, and I mean way back. But I finally decided to pull the trigger on that and switch them. This gives it, the Assassin, a little bit more interesting, bit more unique leveling than the 3, 6, 10, 14 that I had from way back when. And in fact, I think I talk about that in one of my earliest videos about how pretty much every class has a unique leveling, at least up until the 2024 version. For the Amazon, improved critical strike at 15th level and the subclass features at 14th level have been switched. See previous comments. For all classes, feat has been replaced by ability score increase. This was just something that should have been done a long time ago. Ability score increase, I just brought it over from the actual D&D stuff. Technically, because feat didn't have the ability to choose an ability score increase, it technically is a mechanical change, but also it said ability score increase on all of the leveling things, so hopefully people understood that. For the Amazon, Poison Javelin now deals half damage on a success. It's a cloud of poison, so you're going to get something into your lungs. Power Strike, Charge Strike, Lightning Strike, Jab, and Fend have their weapons written out instead of a melee weapon with the two-handed or versatile property that deals piercing damage. This is to eliminate the War Pick, I think it's the War Pick that has the versatile property and it deals piercing damage, but it's not like a stabbing weapon. So, yeah. This reduces it to the spear, the javelin, the spear, the trident, the pike, and the lance, I think. Lightning Absorb now clarifies it rounds up. I forgot to put rounding on it at all. Jab no longer deals half damage rounded up and instead removes your ability modifier from the damage. This is to remove some of the math that gets kind of weird, because I know it's like, oh, I'm going to use jab, and they roll 3 times and then add up all the damage and then have it, while technically you're not supposed to do that. This way you can literally just roll, and you just get the weapon dice instead of adding your dexterity or strength, excuse me. This does mean it's going to deal, if you have things like, if you have an ability to add additional damage to it, that means it's going to deal more damage because it's not having all of the damage. But I think removing the ability modifier is still pretty good. Just cuts down a couple of seconds to having to do math. For the Assassin, Finesse Mastery no longer requires dexterity to use its benefits. So this requires going back a little bit. Finesse Mastery is actually Claw Mastery in Diablo. However, claws are not a weapon in D&D. I turned them into the quote-unquote battle gauntlet. It's basically a rapier that deals slashing damage instead. So I turned it from Claw Mastery to Finesse Mastery. But claws in Diablo have an equal amount of strength and dexterity in order to be wielded. So your assassin ends up having a significant amount of strength and dexterity in order to use the weapons. So if you really want to build a strength-based assassin, you can. There's nothing stopping you. It's also just additional words, and the whole thing, you're using finesse, so it's directing you towards dexterity anyway, so I figured I might as well just pull the extra words out and let you have a little bit more freedom. Also for the assassin, weapon block now works for the only for the triggering attack instead of until the start of your next turn. This is to nerf it very clearly. I looked at some other abilities like the Beast Barbarian's tail. When they rage, they could get a tail, and the tail has the ability to increase your AC by 1d8 just for the triggering attack. And so I was like, oh, well, there we go. You know, there's an example. 3 levels earlier, but there's an example. Martial Arts now clarifies the attack action must be on your turn in order to gain the bonus action attack. Technically not really a change because I've never seen the attack action being taken on someone else's turn, but mechanics. Psychic Hammer can now only target creatures you can see, not sense, and no longer grants advantage to the creature if you can't see it. The idea behind that was that the Psychic Hammer in Diablo 2 could be cast without a target. I didn't want to have to deal with it. So in the spirit of making things a whole lot simpler, there we go. There's the change. And lastly, for the Assassin, Cloak of Shadows no longer grants greater invisibility at 15th level. I think getting greater invisibility was a bit too powerful, so I am just giving you Cloak of Shadows, or Cloak of Shadows only grants Just Pass Without Trace, and I think that's good enough. For the Barbarian, Whirlwind is now an area saving throw instead of individual attacks. This is kind of bringing in the flavor. You're swinging a weapon around you as fast as you possibly can. You're not actually like attacking something. So it works better. Certainly makes it more like Diablo 3 and Diablo 4. For the Druid, Tornado now clarifies that it has to be commanded on your turn, and it now allows disadvantage on ranged attacks against creatures in its area. Hurricane grants disadvantage to ranged attacks. It's a bunch of swirling air, so Tornado, yeah, sure. Only against creatures of your choice, by the way. For the Necromancer, the summoned Iron Golem now automatically attunes to the item. You're spending an hour to create the thing. I'll just say that's the attunement time. The summoned Blood Golem's blood healing now clarifies the damage must be from its slam attack. Poison Adept no longer grants a Poisoner's Kit. Poison Nova can now be used only once per long rest instead of twice, cutting the damage, or cutting the power down significantly again. Raised Skeleton now uses Summon Adept to issue commands rather than a bonus action. This is kind of a nerf because I believe your Summon Adept uses your action rather than your bonus action. I could be convinced to do a bonus action rather than an action. The Summoner Druid uses a bonus action or an action, it uses a bonus action and then later on uses an action or bonus action. I could be convinced to just make this verbal commands, but again, give me some feedback. And then lastly, for the Amazon, Inner Sight can now be used a minimum of once per long rest. This was something I had forgotten to write in, that it had a minimum use. It's equal to your Wisdom modifier. But if you have a 0 modifier, then you couldn't use it at all. And that's it. This is the last one that I will be reading for the what I'm assuming, or what I'm declaring to be the alpha version of this playtest. And I have gone through this whole thing with an absolutely fine-toothed comb. And I mean, you've seen the past 3 changelogs, I think, were all this big, just absolutely massive. And I honestly couldn't believe that I had missed so many things. But I mean, this is 2.5 years of work, a little more than 2.5 years of work. I spent some time before making the channel, but I am done with this section. So next week is going to be a Let's Fix Bow Amazon, and you'll see a new subclass emerge from there. A new subclass, technically 2 new subclasses with the revamped mechanics, because I thought that the way that it is written up right now is a bit much, a bit more confusing than it should be. So I am going to end it here. You can contact me at XenozFan2, that is XenozFan2 on Blue Sky and Reddit. And you can contact the channel directly at Diablo TODND on Blue Sky and YouTube. Thank you much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Have a good whatever.